to Alter Your Algorithm, a podcast where we talk about Jesus and what we can do to focus on him. I'm Jackson.
I'm Tyler.
Thank you for joining us this week. Tyler, tell us about what happened last week.
All right, so last week we got back to just Jackson and I for a little slowdown, and we talked about resetting the feed, just kind of getting back to the basics and things of that nature. We reflected. We talked about refocus, and then just talked about how we can recommit. We talked about some things that came up. Maintenance is key. And this just really like the episodes that we've been diving into that keeps coming up, consistency and just being spiritually disciplined. So I felt like a good episode. It was nice to kind of go back to the fundamentals.
Absolutely. Something that we have to do. I'm very excited about our guest today. I'm going to let you introduce him here in a second, but discipline and recommitting and just making sure that we're walking with God the way that we should. I feel like today what we're going to talk about aligns with that perfectly. It aligns perfectly with what we're trying to do with this podcast, which is to focus on Jesus. We're trying to change our lives so that we can focus on him a little bit better. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So
Absolutely.
Introduce our
Yes,
guest.
and it goes back to the platform, and I don't. We have Barry today, Barry Payne with FCA. He's really involved with that, and he's involved in junior golf and things of that nature. We're very excited to have Barry on to kind of talk about his platform and things of that nature. Barry, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me. I'm excited to be able to talk with you guys. And for those that are listening, just introducing myself to you all. So I'm from here. I'm from Christian County, a little town called Pembroke, just south of here. Dad was a farmer. Mom was a school teacher. Grew up in church. Grew up playing different sports. Basketball and baseball were kind of my main deals. And then about the age of 12, I discovered golf. And that was kind of a funny story. I realized there really wasn't anybody to tell me to run sprints. There really wasn't anybody to tell me I did anything wrong. It was just me and my clubs and chasing this golf ball around trying to get better. And I realized I was pretty good at it. And so I went to Hopkinsville High School, continued to play golf. That started personally to become my identity. And I decided I wanted to try to play college golf. So I got an opportunity to go to Campbellsville University and play college golf. And I met my wife there while I was at Campbellsville University. We got married soon after I graduated. And then I took a job in the golf business. Learning to be a manager of a golf course. And I turned professional in golf in 2008, became a manager of a facility in 2010, became a PGA member in 2012. And so golf was a big part of my life, always has been. About the age 29, I really just felt this deep conviction of sin in my life that the Lord pressed upon me, that I had spent a whole lot of time just really focused on myself and selfish actions and chasing something that I put ahead of him and put ahead of my family. And so about the age of 30, there was a change in what I do and what me and my family do. And we really started to just focus in on how can we serve the Lord. And we did that at our local church. And we did that from about the age 30 until last year when I was 38. And we felt the Lord call us into FCA ministry or sports ministry. And it's kind of just a wild series of events. And we were seeking how we could serve him and how we could use all of this experience that we had had in golf and locally in sports and leverage it for him and for the gospel. And so that's kind of led us to where we are now.
Awesome. And I'm glad that happened. I'm glad that at 30 you had that come to Jesus moment or whatever you want to call it, because since I've known you, which has only been a few months, I have seen the blessing that it has been in our community to have FCA open up and you take charge. It really has been awesome. One of the things that we talk about, and Tyler, this is a quote from you, is if we don't prioritize our life will prioritize it for us. And sometimes we have this moment in our lives where we feel convicted about something and we want to make a change, but we don't. And it's encouraging to hear people who, instead of ignoring that calling from God, they went ahead and listened to it, and they went ahead and poured their lives into it. And the change that happens because of that. I don't know anybody who has ever done that and regretted it. And so you're a walking testament to the power of, hey, I'm gonna pour into something that Christ is a part of, and I'm gonna do the best I can, and it's gonna make a difference in other people's lives because it's connected to Christ. It's really awesome. It's really awesome.
Yeah, we're excited to have FCA as part of the school systems and private, public, homeschool. It opens up so many opportunities for our student athletes and students that are involved in other activities and just students in general. But it also gives someone a chance to get involved in youth lives, whether it's through coaching or character coaching. You want to just kind of give somebody might not know what FCA is. So would you give us just a little rundown of what it is?
Yeah, for sure. So it's the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It was something that came about back in the 50s as athletes were starting to take endorsement deals from different companies, basically to take what it is they were doing and being great at a sport and leveraging it for somebody to build a brand with. And there was a gentleman that just had this idea that was like, hey, I don't, why couldn't we just do that with Jesus? Why couldn't we empower our athletes to stand up and say, hey, Jesus is my brand? And so when I go out and do things and accomplish great things, all the glory goes to him. And so that's in a nutshell what we do is we do our best to engage coaches and athletes with the gospel of Jesus Christ. We equip them with whatever resources they would need, and then we empower them to live a life where it's not just a coach who's a Christian, but it is a Christian coach, someone who lives out their life on a day-to-day basis, seeking God, and then using that as part of their platform for when they coach. Same thing with athletes. We do a best job if we can of teaching them to lead like Jesus led, which is by being a servant. And we do our best to explain to them that, all they're doing every day to train and be better at something, they can use that to glorify him with. And whenever we get chances to speak about that, that's what we do.
That's awesome. The one thing that I don't think people fully realize about FCA, and you mentioned it with character coaches and just coaches in general. FCA definitely focuses on the athlete, the student. It's a student organization, which is awesome. But it does have the capability to change an adult's life as well. One, if their child is involved with FCA and they're going home and they're all of a sudden talking about Jesus. But also, if you want to get involved with FCA, you may think that you have a strong walk with Christ, but whenever you start to walk with Christ and you're trying to help others, you start to feel this level of responsibility, and you start to care more, and it changes your life as well as an adult. It's happened to me in ministry, that's for sure. And I'm sure that it happens to coaches who become involved with the program. And so again, it's just great, and I'm very grateful that it's in this region.
What does it mean to compete with purpose or to lead with purpose?
Well, I think what we discover, and even, I'll use myself as an example and then breach out from that. For me, the purpose was always because I felt like I was good at it. And if I did well at it, I pretty much built myself up in front of other people. And looking back on it, did that inspire me to train? Yes, it did. But looking back at it, it was not very fulfilling. It was very empty. In fact, when you listen to a lot of great athletes, they may tell you that, hey, I thought winning the championship was going to be great, and then I won it, and I realized that didn't really satisfy me. It was more of the journey. And so, when we talk about, doing something with a purpose, it all of a sudden changes the scope. I was at a Disciple Now breakout session in Caldwell County, and we had the athletes we were working with create a mock schedule of what their life looks like right now. And one of the baseball players said, "I want to go." And so he kind of looked up at the board and he said, "Well, can I tell you what this week looks like?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, tomorrow I wake up at 6:30. I got to be at school by 8. We get out at 3:30. I've got to get on the bus at 4 to go to Paducah, and I'm not going to get home probably till 11 p.m." And so we just had this conversation about, okay, well, is that worth it? And you love baseball, you want to do baseball, but what's the real purpose? Like, what's the why? Why do I do that? Do I do it just because I love baseball? Do I do it because I love being a part of the team? Do I love it because I'm trying to make myself look great? And then we just got to talking about, well, what if I'm doing that to give God glory? And then all of a sudden, it kinda changes how you look at that schedule. It kinda changes how you look at the purpose of it and go, "Hey, I don't mind going to do that, and I don't mind that it takes up all my time because I'm doing that for God." And all of a sudden, the ministry windows of what we would consider to be traditional ministry positions all of a sudden change when you go, hey, I'm a baseball player that shares who Jesus is. I'm on the ministry field going to play high school baseball. And it's like, all right, now we're playing with a purpose. Now we're practicing, we're training with a purpose that's completely different than selfish motives. And I think that's really cool.
That's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Bible passage that I've got prepared for this one because I think this fits in perfectly with what you're talking about. It comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and it's verses 24 through, I'm going to go ahead and read through 27. This was a passage that I can remember reading for the first time when I was a sophomore in high school. And I know you mentioned you don't like running, but this is, a little bit about running. But it was associated with a church camp where we had an Olympic theme, and it made an impact on me that I'm never going to forget. It I don't want to say it propelled me to where I am now, but I get encouragement from this whenever I read it. But it's 1 Corinthians 9, verses 24 through 27. This is what it says. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave so that I have preached to others. I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. Here, Paul's writing a letter to the church in Corinth. They are way off target, but the encouragement that he is giving them right here is, hey, you're doing life for a reason. Are you doing it for the right reason? And you're talking about this student who's playing baseball, and that's not a thought that I had at a young age. It's like, well, why am I playing baseball? Why am I playing this sport or doing this activity? To have that realization is huge. And then also to realize that the prize of a championship, it's great. And the teamwork that went into it to get there is awesome. But you only get to hold the trophy for a little while. We've still got the rest of our lives where we're not going to be playing that sport. And then on that, we've got the rest of eternity where we're going to look at the dash and we're going to reflect on that, and we're going to say, all right, what was I doing, and was it really worth it? Did I only compete for that perishable wreath, or was I running to God and for God so that others could see it? I think that the purpose, or leading with a purpose, is something that we can teach our kids to realize, like, hey, the purpose, yeah, it's to win, yeah, it's to play hard, but really the purpose is Christ. That's ultimately what we should be running to.
Yeah, our young people and even adults put their identity in so many different things. And we start thinking about how you identify. You might identify as a spouse or a dad or somebody at a certain workplace. All these are great things, but you have to have it that priority of Christ first. It's a Christian marriage. It's a Christian family. That's where it lies. If you put your identity in athletics and they fade, or you get injured and then you no longer have athletics, then what? It's all about that eternal identity that's the most important. All these things are good and great, but you just make sure you put first things first.
Absolutely. How have you seen students or coaches use their influence in a God-honoring way?
So this has been a really cool thing to watch throughout the year. When we started, Jenny and I started at the right beginning of the school year, but we didn't come officially on the FCA staff until November. But because it's year one for us, watching the whole organization locally, operate, what we've seen throughout just 1 year is we've really seen coaches and athletes step up to be able to say, hey, here's what I've accomplished, or here's what we're trying to accomplish, but here's the bigger picture, and it ties back into what we're already talking about. But to watch an athlete who is a high school athlete committed to a D1 university, who's willing to come down to the middle school level and wield that influence to a group of middle school students to tell them about how when things get tough on the diamond for her, how she prays to Jesus and how she deals with anxiety in competition, And all of a sudden that's a local influence, but it's amazing how much weight it packs. And then we watch a coach who is already in a position of influence just based off of them being in that job. I think it was Billy Graham said that a coach will influence more people in 1 year than most people do in a lifetime. And when you think about that situation and go, okay, now this coach is pouring in at a different level because he knows love because he knows Jesus. And so when he loves at a different level, then there's fruits from that. And so, I've seen programs this year where coach reports back and is just being real about life. And it's just like, hey, man, I've seen this kid come to know Jesus. I've seen them transform. I've seen them be baptized. And guess what? Last weekend, mom and sister got saved and they're getting baptized. And you just watch it happen and you realize that that's all from the influence of people who are willing to say, hey, this is my faith, and my faith is in front of everything that I do. And so it's just really cool to watch it in action.
The word influence is so huge. We have influencers. It's a profession that you can have. The influence of Christ is the most powerful thing, the most life-changing thing that there is. And so to have a coach or a student willing to partake in that, be a part of that influence is awesome.
Barry, you see schools at kind of a different lens. What challenges do you think that young people face trying to live out their faith and on their platform?
I think at most of the time, and this is probably my opinion, I think it kind of gets suppressed when we go into school world. And then I think a lot of them don't realize how many people around them are like-minded. I don't think they realize how many people around them, for a lack of better terms, don't it's not a big deal for them to be who they are. I think they've almost kind of tricked themselves into thinking, I can't say anything. I can't do anything. I can't, I have to be very quiet about this. And so, I think one of the challenges is just the empowerment portion of it. And so when we gather in fellowship and we gather and we see that, hey, we gathered at the high school this week and there was 85 athletes that got together in a like-minded fashion, and they look around and go, man, there's a whole lot of us that feel the same way. Well, that's empowering. And so, the challenge is in my mind is probably just a lot of them just don't feel empowered to do it. But whenever they are empowered, it's amazing how far it goes. I think that happens at the team level. I think when they're empowered at the team level, then you start to see leaders rise up and serve and love at a level that is very beneficial to the team. But that atmosphere has got to be in place where they know it's okay for them to do that. And so there again, that's that empowerment token. Same thing with social media. It's amazing how just in a fellowship, when you post something that's encouraging or you post something that is Christ-like, to have that group of people around you that even like it on social media or are willing to share it, it's amazing how much power is in that, even as adults. I mean, if we just liked and shared everything that we saw that was positive on social media, it's amazing how much more that would change all the algorithms of people.
100%.
But sometimes we're unwilling to do that.
Yes.
So
Little encouragement goes a long way, and a compliment here, a compliment there. Picking up books here, like be the change that you want to see. It just kind of comes to mind. Like if you don't like something, then what are you going to do to try to change it? You can sit back and be a spectator, or you can be the person who goes to work and fix it for the better.
Whenever you have a group of like-minded people and you realize that you're all on the same page, boldness becomes a little bit easier because there's somebody else that has your back. Teamwork makes the dream work. As cheesy as it is, it does. And when you've got a team of Christians and you realize that you have a team of Christians as a student, that can make a big difference. What would you say to a student who feels like they don't have a platform?
So this is an interesting conversation. I'll tell you a story. I was in a school not long ago. We had our meeting. We were walking through the hallway, and I had a couple of students that were walking through the hallway, and I just stopped and I said, "Hey, what are you training at right now?" And I've started to change my language a little bit because, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, everybody really quickly goes to, "Oh, well, you're on a team, you play a sport." And in reality, we all should be athletes to some degree. We have one temple. We need to do our best to take care of it. But I started and I said, "Hey, what are you training to be good at? And one of them said, well, I'm training to be good at golf. And I was like, oh, I bet we got a lot to talk about. And the other one, I said, well, what are you training to be good at right now? And she said, well, I'm not really on a team sport right now, but I've actually just gotten into drawing and I'm really into that. And I was like, well, how much time do you spend doing that? She's like, oh, maybe a couple hours a night right now. And I said, well, I can guarantee you that you spend as much time drawing as she does playing golf. And so a lot of times, understanding that the platform that we have is very unique to us. And sometimes we pigeonhole people when in reality, there's multiple things you can be good at, and you can build a platform in multiple ways. And you think about David, who was, he slayed Goliath, but he also played the harp for Saul. And you realize, all right, this guy had multiple talents. He had multiple platforms to stand on. And so, we tell kids that of like, hey, you might be a baseball player, but you probably do 3 or 4 other things that you really enjoy.
Mhm.
And so even though that's part of who you are, your platform might not be baseball. Your platform might be that you are really good at Madden, and we need to figure out how to get your Madden influence in front of some other kids so that you can talk about Jesus. And that's where we really dig in and say, hey, your platform is probably bigger than you realize, and it might not even be exactly what you think it is. It might be something different.
Sounds like Troy Bolton from High School Musical, where he thought he was. Have you seen? You know about High School Musical? You don't. You know about High School Musical? Okay.
You supposed to shake your head no.
You know about.
I know what it is, yes, but I haven't sat down
For
and
those of
watched
you,
it.
those of you who don't know,
Harry, don't tell them to have.
Troy Bolton is a basketball player, but he doesn't realize that he's really good at singing until one night singing karaoke at a New Year's party. I think, as cheesy as that is, we don't realize what we are capable of as Christians until we try it. And FCA is a beautiful organization where kids they've heard about Jesus. Maybe they want to know about him, but they've never tried him. And so it's okay, well, I'm going to try Jesus. I'm going to see how that influences me. And then they can, become the star of the spring musical.
Yeah, Barry, you mentioned a part of who you are. It's not the whole picture, right? And just these kids and just people in general, you have to realize you matter. You were created on purpose for a purpose. Some people go their whole life trying to figure out what that is, and they go in different directions, but eventually you're going to figure out what that purpose is. And regardless of the platform, small or big, you have a platform, you have an influence of some way. It's just important that we use that the best way that we know how. So I appreciate you saying that.
Just like our social media feeds reflect what we engage with, our life reflects our platform, how we live, how we lead, how we influence others. So we have the power to, quote unquote, program our platform for God by how we train, by how we compete, and by how we treat those on our team, those on the opposing team, just people around us in general. Maybe it's the referees. Regardless of your platform, we have 4 principles that we want to share with you. So Tyler, you take the first one.
Yeah, so how you compete reveals what you believe. Whether you get frustrated, whether you have pride, humility, grace, all these things, a lot of people are really good winners, but they struggle at losing. You're going to lose in games and you're going to lose in life sometimes. So what kind of shows up during those times of defeat, it really shows what's rooted inside. So it's important that we are what we say we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 2, your identity isn't in stats or standings. Your win record is going to eventually be forgotten, or somebody's going to post a better one, so it's going to fade. But being grounded in Christ gives you peace no matter what the scoreboard says. I play a game called Clash of Clans. I've been playing it for 10 years, and I just crossed 4,000 trophies, which is a big milestone for me in Clash of Clans. I've been playing it for 10 years. But nobody cares. And you know what? Probably in 3 months, I'm going to get unaddicted to that game and I'm going to forget myself. It's so easy to get tied up into those little small details about my batting percentage or how many goals the other person has saved versus me. Let those things go and focus on, all right, where are you standing with Christ? That's the most important standing.
Yeah, I think that goes along with it, kind of the comparison trap tab.
Absolutely.
Like, not necessarily just my stats, but other people's stats and other people's wealth and other people's, things of that nature. So number 3 is effort is part of your worship. I know a lot of times we think of worship being sacred and it has to be in a certain place, but we can worship in so many different places, and effort is one of those things. How you do the small things is how you do everything, and what are you doing those things for? How can we insert glory for God in this, and things of that nature? You don't do it for the attention. You kind of do it for serving God and what's best for others.
Yeah, we've referenced this verse many times already in this podcast, but I'm going to reference it one more time. Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. That is going to, one, alter your algorithm a ton, but it also is a posture of effort.
Yeah, this
Got
is
that.
the one that we talked about last week that I'm really trying to work on myself.
Absolutely.
Number 4 says, be known for who you follow, not just what you do. And the right voices lead to the right choices. If Jesus shapes your heart, he'll shape your habits too. And if we're going to be listening to Jesus's voice, that means we have to read God's word and we have to ingest it. Whatever comes in is going to come out of us. And then that's going to be a habit that changes our algorithm as well. One big thing that's changed in my life since really saying yes to FCA, and it's something that I didn't even dream about when I said yes, but it's something that's changed in me, is that if you ask me, how was your day? Or what did you do today? It's very hard for me not to talk about Jesus. And regardless of what we're doing, if we can make the mental switch to I do it for God, I do it for Jesus, and I listen to him, then we would all be amazed at however many conversations we have get redirected towards kingdom. And then all of a sudden, we are blessed with opportunities to speak life into people. And so, be known for that.
You start to get known as the guy that's always talking about Jesus. That's a
Yeah,
great
and
compliment.
yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
So you might be listening to this and be like, all right, well, the FCA is doesn't really involve me or whatever. So we still like to finish with practical takeaways. It like we've mentioned, regardless of your platform or your season of life, this applies.
Absolutely. You have to be able to recognize your platform. That's number one. Whether you're on a sports team, you're part of a friend group, or you're leading a Bible study, or you have influence in the workplace, be aware of your platform and be aware of what you can do with your platform. I was having a conversation about something yesterday involving soccer. I had a youth minister friend who played collegiate level soccer. He was really, really good. He goes on a mission trip to Honduras, and he's gained a little weight, but he is still like an athletic beast. And so the kids down there in Honduras, oh man, they're playing soccer all the time. And they look at him and they don't know that he has this ability to play soccer. And so they're making fun of him, gringo or whatever they were calling him. And so he gets out on the soccer field and he starts, doing scissor kicks and all this stuff. He nutmegs one of the kids. Everybody collapses on him like you're the superstar. He was able to recognize, all right, I'm about to win a bunch of street cred with these kids because I'm about to show out my skills and I'm going to be able to use that platform to have an influence on them this week. And so we have to recognize, all right, I got to use my skills. Like Christ gave me these talents. Let me use them. And sports is such a cool thing because they're so much fun. Like I love playing sports. I want to. And to be able to use that gift from God to spread the gospel, you can't beat that. Can't beat that.
The second practical takeaway is to redirect the glory. And so use our words, actions, and wins to point others to Christ and not ourselves. Our message this year, our theme this year for FCA is just simply glory. And so our verse comes from 2 Corinthians 3:18. It says, we all with unveiled faces are looking as in a mirror at the glory of the Lord and are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory. This is from the Lord who is the Spirit. And so when we talk to kids, and students and athletes and adults, if we can too, we talk about how do we go from chasing our own glory in life, which is a selfish ambition, to reflecting his glory in all we do. And if we can do that, then we can massively change the way we feel about what we do every day. We wake up in the morning and we go, hey, this isn't about me today, it's about him.
Question real quick. FCA doesn't just stay at the high school level. It goes to college, right?
Professional, right?
It does? Okay. So I can remember watching Ohio State win the national championship. I believe they were playing Notre Dame. And afterwards, it seemed like a ton of those guys,
Oh, I understand.
the first thing they said when the microphone was stuck into their face was, "I would like to give all the glory to God." Do you know if FCA was a part of that, or it was just campus ministry in some degree?
Probably a little bit of all of it. Whenever we did that training that day over at Hillcrest, we
Mhm,
showed that video.
mhm.
And so I think it's part of it. I couldn't put my finger on there. I know FCA is part of Ohio State, it's part of all this. But I think the idea of, redirecting the glory was definitely all over that.
Absolutely.
So
The third point is show up daily. This has kind of been a theme on several episodes, is that consistency is key. Living for God's glory is not about one big moment. It's the small things too. I think about knocking down one pin at a time versus, that big, that getting a strike or whatever. It's also about doing things the right way whenever no one's watching. I think that's where your true character shows. Are you putting in the work whenever there's no audience? That's where champions grow. And then the fourth and final thing is we got to make sure that we encourage others. That's a community aspect. That's at a school. That's at the workplace. A little encouragement goes a long ways. I think that's something that we kind of struggle with sometimes. Is not intentionally. I just think that we're like, what's this little comment going to say? But a little text here, a little text there, say, hey, I noticed that, or I just think about students in the hallway. You talk about their shoes, and they light up. So if you made a kid smile today, that's a pretty good day.
And when their teammates, when it's peers giving peers compliments, doesn't happen very often. Working in a high school, you get a better reaction if you razz them,
Right.
but
And
you get a better result when you don't.
we've talked about it. Life is tough,
Mhm.
and we know what goes in our lives, but we have no idea what's going in some of our coworkers' lives, or maybe sometimes our friends. Like, a lot of people keep so much stuff within that you don't know what that little what seemed very insignificant to you may mean the world to someone else.
Mm.
So why withhold that? Just go ahead and release it.
All right, this week we're going to close with a challenge. I'm going to encourage you. We're going to encourage you to identify your current platform, whether it's where you work, whether it's the people you're around. Maybe it's you're a parent and your platform is as a mom or a dad. Maybe you're a teenager and your platform is your classroom. Identify what your platform is, and just ask the question, where has God placed me to make an impact? And then ask yourself, am I using this platform for His glory? And then I want you to make an intentional change this week that honors God through the platform that you have. You'll be surprised at what you can do when you really start to think, all right, where has God put me and what am I supposed to do?
Barry, we really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything that you would like someone to or that maybe listen to this podcast to know about how to possibly get involved with FCA?
yeah, one of the beautiful things for me personally about FCA that I've enjoyed probably more than anything is just the cooperative spirit of kingdom-minded people, people who understand that there is his church, and his church is built up of local churches. But when we go on a parachurch mission like FCA, it's really cool that as many people that want to get involved with that can come in and volunteer and be a part of it, and just love on coaches and athletes, and us do it in a way that shares the gospel. And really all partake in it. So if there is somebody that would like to be involved, in the advancement of the ministry, or would like to be involved at the board level or donor level, they can get in touch with me. My phone number is 270-484-6200. We have some socials they can follow. If they want to get onto Instagram, it's West Kentucky FCA Area 3 for the Facebook or Instagram, and just connect with me, reach out, message. Would love to help you figure out a voice in sports ministry, if that's something that you feel like, man, I could really serve in that capacity.
You mentioned before we started recording FCA camp. Can you share that if there's anybody listening that might be interested in that?
Yeah, June 27th through the 30th is our FCA leadership camp. It's at Western Kentucky University. We're going to be taking a group of athletes from here, from middle school and high school age kids that want to go. It's a highly competitive camp. It's really cool. I actually tell the kids, if you don't like to compete, You're probably not going to like it because we're going to get there and we're going to split into teams, and you're going to have a college athlete who's your huddle leader, and you're going to get to play basketball and diddle. You're going to go on the football field. You're going to get to use all the athletic facilities there. And I got to go last year. It's not just that. I mean, we're looking at leadership skills and we're worshiping and we're talking about Jesus, um, but but it is just an awesome weekend of fun and competition.
That does sound like a lot of fun. So, Barry, thank you for joining us. If you're listening to the podcast, whether it's for the first time or every single time, we're very, very grateful for it. We ask that you like the episode, share it with somebody, and subscribe or follow whatever platform you're using. And we hope that this episode is kind of has a little bit of what we've been talking about, where we're able to use it as an influence to draw others closer to Christ. Tyler, do you have anything else?
No, just like you said, share. Somebody needs to hear this, or some of our others, and we appreciate you, Barry, and we'll look forward to next week.
Absolutely. I'm going to close with a prayer, and then we'll get out of here. God, we thank you so much for today. Father, I'm thankful for Barry and the platform that he has. I'm thankful for FCA and the changes that it's making in kids' lives here in Hopkinsville and the surrounding region. I just ask that you continue to bless it, and when a kid gives their life over to you, we just rejoice. Help us to use our platform as well. Father, we're thankful for sports and the blessings that come with that, and being able to compete and being able to have fun. But ultimately, we know that the prize that we are striving for is a life with you. So, God, help us to always remember that and strive for that. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you for listening to Alter Your Algorithm.